E ziua în care vreau să fiu doar un oarecare, să dăruiesc la întâmplare, să văd doar fețe zâmbitoare.
The Schengen project first was about freedom of movement for tourists. It was the main objective of the Schengen Agreement, to enable the move of tourists between the different European countries and not block them on the borders. So it was really an internal project and not an external project of closing borders and close Europe from the outside. Now, the freedom of movement for workers and freedom of establishment is directed by other programs, European programs, and mobility programs, and also is a question of sovereignty for the member states. We have both. So Schengen is not about the mobility of workers and in freedom of liberty. It's really a question of mobility for people inside Europe to move from one place to the other without any kind of visa and border controls. This is the first point. The second point about Schengen is to think about Schengen has to be rethink, because actually we put everything in Schengen. The migrant crisis, with the migrant crisis, we are putting everything in the Schengen, and we're saying, we can not close our borders, and if Hungary is actually want to have a referendum about the quota of migrants they can take over. So it's also a question of integration of the different countries inside Schengen and of balance between their own social tissues and the trans-European social tissues. We cannot impose to a country who is weak to take over thousands of migrants if they cannot implement the tools and the ways to integrate them. So we have also to listen to the different peoples and to debate about it and to share the different visions of the different countries, and not being there and saying, oh, you are very bad because you don't want to take over migrants, so you are the bad one. No, this is not trans-European politics. This is not sharing the values of European. We have to listen to them, and we have to come to consensus on this point. And if they don't want, because they don't can actually, because they don't have the tools or the means to take over the people, okay, so we have to discuss and to see how we can arrange and find an arrangement to help these countries, and for the other ones, the Western ones, we are more rich than the Eastern ones. So I don't. It's for me normal that Germany is taking over, France are taking over more refugees or migrants than the Eastern countries, who are weaker than me in the West side, on the West side. So okay, so we have to find the balance and the consensus on that. Second point about Schengen, internal borders. What is actually happening is that we see that it's not possible to re-implement borders inside Schengen. You see the crisis between Austria and Italy. They were not the Italians who were against the border, the fences at the Brenner it was the Austrian population who is established in Italy, who was saying, okay, if it's so, we are no more Austrian, or we are coming back to Austria. We are living in Italy, we are Austrian communities living in Italy, and we have to go, and if we want to go back to our countries, we need to show our passport. No, it's nonsense. And this is something we have also to think about, recreating borders inside Schengen. What for? Do we want to break up the continent, like in Africa, in different communities and each communities? Do we want to have wars again inside Europe because we have new borders? So this is also a question. Yes, and then after that, the other questions are with Schengen are how to protect the citizens, European citizens, which are the limits of Schengen. Actually, you have, if you look at the Schengen map, you have a hole between the southern eastern European countries and Greece. And you have the Balkan countries who are not belonging to Schengen. And then you have Greece alone, like an island, alone, not attached to Schengen area. So what are the limits of Schengen area? And the last question is politically, what do we want to do with Schengen? Is it only a question of security? Is it a question to have a fortress Europe, protecting itself from outside? Or is it just a question of administrative border controls? The member states are no more able to take over because it's costing a lot of money, it's meaning a lot of people, etc.
You see one